Alright, what's going on, guys? Today we are going to be talking about the downsides to the benefit of hindsight. Now, I know initially it sounds slightly confusing when I say it that way because how can something be a downside and a benefit at the same time? I don't necessarily think that they are both at the same time. I just think that there are downsides within this benefit because some people do not utilize the benefit of hindsight correctly or even utilize hindsight at all to their advantage. So I feel like when done incorrectly, it can become more of a hindrance than anything. But if done correctly, it can propel you forward with progression in just about anything in life. So, what is hindsight? Hindsight is the understanding of a situation or event only after it has happened or developed. Why is hindsight a good thing? Hindsight is the clarity that comes after making a poor decision, hence the popular term post fill in the blank clarity. We use the past to learn from our mistakes because it's, of course, the only moment in time that we know the outcome of with 100% certainty. This prevents us from repeating history, as we know how the same or similar situations have played out. The explanation for hindsight is glaringly obvious. It's to learn from your mistakes. It's essentially just the past. It doesn't necessarily have to, be in relation to something poor, but in this context, that's what we'll be talking about. So, what is the hidden downside to hindsight? The downside that many people don't consider is that it can warp your perception of right versus wrong. So here's an example. Let's say you're running low on money to spend, but there's a limited edition drop coming from your favorite clothing brand this weekend and you cannot miss it. Your job won't give you more hours this week, you can't pick up more shifts from your coworkers, you don't have the time to DoorDash, and you don't want to ask your friends or family to lend you money. So, you decide to bet on your favorite sports team to win. Easy money, it doesn't take time or effort out of your day, and it's just about the only timely option that you can think of. The problem is you don't want to lose too much of your money because there isn't much to spare, so you decide to risk $20 of your hard-earned cash on it with a 1-to-1 risk. The clothes you want are a total of $60. That means if your bet is correct, you come out with a $40 total. Still not enough. So you decide that if it goes well, you'll either put it on a credit card and hope you can pay it off when it's due, or you'll swallow your pride and have to owe your friend $20. Now, I know that obviously there are some holes in this scenario as it's not the most realistic, but for the sake of the point of the video, it works well enough as I know that likely somebody's going to be willing to give you the money you want or need, or there's plenty of different resources that people can use to get whatever it is that they're short on cash with. But just for the sake of the point that I'm trying to drive here, this will be the scenario. You place your bet and it hits. They win by a landslide, dominating the game with a disrespectful score of 70-0. Now that you have $40, you unfortunately have to come up with the last $20 from something or someone else. Now you're just salty because they won by so much that it wasn't even remotely close. In a situation like this, most people would think to themselves, dang, if I knew this was going to happen, I would have bet more. I'll go all in next time. Or, man, I should have gone all in from the jump. I made such a poor decision by not doing that originally. That's where the warped perception of right and wrong comes in. If anything, the poor decision you made was when you decided the best way to come up with another $20 was to bet on it. Plus, you didn't know what was going to happen in the moment, so why are you beating yourself up as if your hindsight was present earlier? It doesn't make sense. Even though betting $20 of the little cash you have probably wasn't the smartest idea, it was at least a good choice to bet a relatively small amount. With the curse of hindsight, though, you're not thinking about that. You just wish you could tell your past self to go all in. So in the future, you may expect a repeat of the situation, so you could risk too much, and it doesn't work out in your favor that next time. How can we prevent this from happening? You can't be angry that you didn't know what you didn't know, especially if it has to do with future outcomes that cannot be predicted with absolute certainty. This leads to poor discretion as you use the advantage of hindsight to hinder your rational foresight. I should have started working out earlier. I should have risked more on that gamble. I would have asked my friend for that big favor weeks ago if I knew he'd say yes so quickly. Of course he would have. Who wouldn't? Take a second to think about why you didn't in the moment. Not because you're stupid, not because you can't make decent decisions, but because you cannot predict the future. Now, because of your regret, you end up misinterpreting your good/safe decisions and reinforcing the bad ones that crossed your mind. It's all backwards now. We have to remind ourselves of this. You only know what's present in the moment. You can't change the past. And you cannot carry over these regretful decisions into a different time, for it is no longer the same choice that you are making. Just because it's something similar doesn't mean it's the same. If it's a new time, it's a new situation. Things don't always go as planned, so you have to be prepared for that. You cannot expect something to work out just because it did last time, especially on the basis of probability or luck. Remind yourself, ground yourself. Before confronting the regret of your past choices, put on the shoes you once wore in that moment. If you think the choice was poor, rethink it while only considering the variables that were there when you made that decision. You'll find that your perspective about it begins to change. That's really all it is. It's just all perspective. You can't get angry about not doing something before when you simply didn't know what was going to happen. If you think to yourself, oh man, I should have just went all in that moment when I made that bet, take yourself back a few steps. Go back to what you were thinking in that moment. In that moment, you didn't go all in because you didn't know what was going to happen. So of course, you're not going to go all in because you're trying to be safer. It's ultimately the better decision. So at the end of the day, you still walked out with a win, right? You still made money. You still doubled whatever it is that you came with. You're one step closer to getting those clothes you want. But because hindsight is plaguing you so much and you're using it improperly, you think to yourself, man, yeah, I made this much, but I could have made even more if I just knew what was going to happen. You can't get angry for not knowing because there's no way for you to really know if there's no absolute certainty for that outcome. So you just always have to keep that in mind. You can't beat yourself up about something that wasn't necessarily there before. That entire factor, that game-changing factor of knowing what the outcome was going to be, wasn't there before. That one factor can change the course of everything. If you knew what was going to happen in the future whenever you decided to make any decision, you would be correct 100% of the time, or you would, go all in. Like if you wanted to put a 12-leg parlay on a whole bunch of different teams winning or something, through playoffs or whatever it is, if you knew what was going to happen, you would put the whole house on it. You would put everything on it because you know exactly what's going to happen. So the reason why you didn't, though, is because you didn't. You didn't know. So whenever it comes to this, thing of hindsight, you have to remind yourself that it's only used as a tool whenever you're incorrect. Majority of the time, that's when it's actually useful. When you bet on something or you take a chance on something and you end up coming out better than you were when you came in, that's a win at the end of the day. So keep that in mind.